Today on the John Ankerberg Show, modern science discovers the universe had a beginning. What are the implications of this discovery? Do the words, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," accurately describe what science has discovered? Astronomer George Smoot at the University of California, Berkeley declared, "What we have found is evidence for the birth of the universe." He added, "It's like looking at God." Arno Penzias shared the Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery of cosmic background radiation. He said, "Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing, one with the very delicate balance needed to provide exactly the conditions required to permit life, and one which has an underlying, one might say, supernatural plan." Astronomer George Greenstein, in his book, The Symbiotic Universe, asks, "Is it possible that suddenly, without intending to, we have stumbled upon scientific proof of the existence of a supreme being?" And Stephen Hawking has conceded, "It would be very difficult to explain why the universe should have begun in just this way, except as the act of a God who intended to create beings like us." My guest today is astronomer Dr. Hugh Ross, who received his PhD in astronomy from the University of Toronto and did postdoctoral research at Caltech on quasars. We invite you to join us. Welcome to our program. We've got a great one today. You don't want to miss this. You're all familiar with the phrase, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That is an amazing, amazing statement that we're going to talk about today. It says that there is a start to all of the physical universe. And my guest today is an astronomer, Dr. Hugh Ross, astrophysicist and astronomer. And Hugh, when you were a non-Christian and you first looked at this first verse in the Bible, what struck you about there being a start to the physical universe?
Well, I was curious. What does this passage actually mean? What is the heavens and the earth? So as I read through the entire Old Testament, I realized it never uses the word universe, but there's this phrase, the heavens and the earth, that means the totality of physical reality, all matter, energy, space, and time. And the word create means to bring into existence something brand new that never existed before. So it's a real start, a real beginning to the universe. And then you go to the New Testament, and Hebrews 11:3 declares that the universe that we can detect did not come from that which we can detect. Well, we humans can detect matter, energy, space, and time. So it's telling us there's a God beyond space and time that created this universe with a specific beginning a finite time ago.
And the amazing thing is this Bible verse was written thousands of years ago before modern science even had a clue as to this. And in fact, they fought this start. We're going to talk about why they fought it, but they fought it, and this didn't really come true until what year?
Well, in the 19th century, the predominant worldview is that the universe was infinite without a beginning. And it was in the early part of the 20th century, thanks primarily to Albert Einstein, that we realized, yes, the universe does have a beginning. And that led to a reaction from the scientific community.
And why didn't they want a start, a beginning to everything?
Well, they recognized that what they were discovering was supporting what the Bible taught. And so they were saying, is there another way of looking at the universe where we're not stuck with this biblical interpretation for the universe?
All right, throughout this series of programs, we're going to be showing you some fantastic science clips from Hugh's documentary movie, Journey Toward Creation. We're going to make it available to you. This is new and updated. And right now I want you to see a little bit of what we're talking about when the Bible says there was a start, there was a beginning to the universe. This is the way the astronomers would see it. Take a look.
We are passengers on a controlled and purposeful explosion. As if we are microbes riding on a piece of shrapnel from an exploding grenade. All of the universe's matter and energy, even space and time, came into existence in a single moment. But far from a chaotic explosion, this initial blast seems to have been finely tuned, as if it has been designed to benefit us and our tiny planet. Today, our knowledge of the heavens and the earth and the forces influencing them is greater than that of all previous generations combined, and our sense of wonder grows with each new revelation.
Hugh, this is absolutely incredible what we're watching. We don't really understand all that we're watching. We're just getting the idea, and in a further clip going down the line in this program, we're going to show them more technicality. But in round terms, you have the universe coming out of a single moment, which is hard for us to even get our mind around. How did the astronomers, what's the history here of how did you get to this point, and why did they have a reaction against it? Because it showed them there was a creator in back of this.
Well, there's 2 points. The one about the beginning. If there's a beginning, there has to be a beginner. And of course, that doesn't sit well with non-theists. But the other thing that disturbed them is the beginning was so recent in the past, only billions of years ago. And whatever illusions the biologists had, the astronomers knew if it's only billions of years, there's no way they can sustain a Darwinian interpretation of life. And so they wanted either to get rid of the beginning, or if they have a beginning, let's make sure we have at least a quadrillion years.
Tell the folks how Hubble, he started this thing in terms of looking at the galaxies.
Well, what he noticed was that the farther away galaxies are, the faster they're moving away from us. And that proportionality could only be true if the universe is continually expanding from a space-time beginning.
Because if you roll it backwards, what happens?
If you roll it backwards, the galaxies are closer together. And now we actually have Hubble images that show us the farther away you look, the more jammed together the galaxies are.
And what did Einstein contribute to this conversation?
Well, he came up with a theory of general relativity. And his equations of general relativity, when solved, tell us that the universe has a beginning and the universe expands from that beginning.
And he didn't like his own conclusions, did he?
He didn't. He actually changed his theory to get rid of the beginning and get rid of the expansion.
And Hubble pulled him into California and showed him through the telescopes what?
He actually showed him what he was actually producing in terms of the expansion we've seen in the moving apart of the galaxies. And that's when Einstein said, you know, my patch-up of my theory is my greatest scientific blunder.
All right. So you have, then after Einstein, who was the big one?
The big one after that was people developing instruments to look at the radiation from the cosmic creation event.
Why?
Well, if the universe is expanding from a space-time beginning, that means it's going to get colder and colder as it gets older and older. And therefore, they actually should be able to detect this radiation from the creation event itself. However, the universe is so old, they realize it's going to be very feeble. So it took sophisticated technology to even detect that radiation.
So it was Kobe 1 and Kobe 2, wasn't it? The satellite that you took pictures of the background radiation of the universe?
Well, we actually had measurements of that temperature earlier than that, Penzias and Wilson. Kobe showed us for the first time when the universe began to separate from cold spots and hot spots. And then we actually have the Sloan Digital Sky Survey that shows that the clusters of galaxies we see correspond to the hot spots in the cosmic background radiation and the voids to the cold spots.
By the way, isn't it biblical that the fact is that the universe is going to get colder and colder?
It is. I mean, the Bible tells us that the universe expands from a space-time beginning under constant laws of physics, where one of those laws is a pervasive law of decay. And it's that second law of thermodynamics that tells us the universe must get colder and colder in a highly predictable way. And we now actually have measurements of the past temperature of the universe that perfectly fit the biblically predicted cooling curve of the universe once we know the age of the universe.
What has been the topper in the last, say, 5 years that keeps on adding evidence to the fact that this took place, you can't get away from it?
Well, probably the most persuasive has been this cooling curve that they've been able to measure.
And they've actually charted it out.
They've actually charted it out. And the other thing is
What did they find in the chart?
Well, they were actually able to measure the temperature, the radiation of the cosmic creation event at different look-back times in cosmic history. And today there's 14 separate measurements of the temperature of the universe throughout the history of the universe, and the measurements actually fit what you would predict from the Bible.
All right, you might ask, how do the astronomers know this? And we're going to show you a clip from Journey Toward Creation that talks about what astronomers do and how they observe the past. That phrase, Hugh, is a funny one. You observe the past. How in the world do you observe the past?
Well, light has a finite velocity, so it actually takes time from light from distant galaxies to get to our telescope. So it means we're seeing those galaxies as they were when the light left, not as they are right now.
Yeah, so when we see the sun, it's actually, we're seeing the sun as it was 8 minutes ago, because it takes that time to get here. And as you go to other stars and galaxies, it's further away, it takes time to get here.
Right.
And you can actually observe this as you adjust your telescopes.
Right, we can actually see right back to virtually the beginning of time itself.
That's what I want to show you in this clip. Watch this.
This is the Keck Observatory, the world's largest optical telescopes. Together, these two telescopes have 8 times the collecting area of the Mount Palomar telescope and more than 30 times that of the Hubble Space Telescope. The Keck telescope is 36 independently driven mirrors. Computers control the movement of these mirrors so that they work in sync as one gigantic 400-inch telescope. It's also very precisely figured down to a molecule's thickness. With sensitive light and radio wave gathering instruments like this, we can look out billions of light years into space to the very limits of the cosmos itself. But as we look out into space, we're also looking back in time. This is where astronomy is unique among the sciences, because it alone directly observes the past. As a matter of fact, astronomers are always observing the past. Light waves, radio waves, and all other kinds of electromagnetic waves may seem to reach us instantaneously, but they don't. They seem to because they travel so fast. Light speeds through space at 186,000 miles per second, fast enough to circle the globe 7.5 times in a second. When we look at the sun, 93 million miles away, we're seeing what it looked like when the light left it about 8 minutes ago. Likewise, when we look at the moon, we're seeing it as it appeared about 2 seconds ago. When we look out to the stars, we're seeing them as they were thousands, millions, even billions of years ago. The farther away an object is, the longer ago its light began its trip through space. The distance light covers in a year, about 6 trillion miles, we call a light year. Light years offer a more convenient method for indicating vast distances. The most distant galaxies ever detected by astronomers are about 13 billion light years away. That means the light from those galaxies took 13 billion years to arrive on Earth. As we gaze at this galaxy, we're looking back in time at how it appeared 13 billion years ago.
That clip is fantastic, Hugh. And let me ask you this question. With all of the advances in science that we have, how far back can you now look with these telescopes?
Well, the Keck gets you back to when the universe was about 5% of its current age. But now we have instruments in radio astronomy that can tell us what the universe was like when it was 100 billionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second old. That's how close we can get to the actual cosmic creation event. And this is where we get the most compelling evidence that indeed the universe must have had this space-time beginning.
All right. And we're going to take a break. When we come right back, we're going to show you what scientists say in more detail about that moment when God brought everything into being, what they know about that event. It'll blow your mind. Stick with us. We'll be right back. you would like to have all of the information in today's series, Science Discovers the Universe Had a Beginning, all 4 half-hour programs with astronomer Dr. Hugh Ross are available on DVD for a gift of $49. And you may order this series now by calling us at 1-800-805-3030.
All right, we're back. We're talking about some amazing things about Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What do scientists know about that moment when he brought everything into being? And my guest today is astronomer and astrophysicist, Dr. Hugh Ross, and we're going to go right to his clip in his beautiful documentary movie, Journey Toward Creation, that shows you what scientists have discovered as they've gone back in time toward the moment when God brought everything into existence. I want you to watch this.
We'll need a new mode of transportation to carry us the rest of the way back to the moment of creation. Our new vehicles will be radio and far infrared telescopes. With these instruments, we can look back to the time before galaxies. If our eyes could see radio waves or infrared waves, we would be able to see distant galaxies more easily. But our eyes can only see electromagnetic emissions in the visible light wave spectrum. Waves in the radio part of the spectrum allow us to peer back in time even farther. This map of the cosmic background radiation, literally the radiation left over from the creation of the universe, carries our eyes as far back in time as any telescope can possibly take them. We cannot look back any farther because 380,000 years after the creation event, light first separated from darkness. The view before that time would only offer a featureless glow. We can't see beyond this glow because previous to 380,000 years after the creation event, the universe was too hot for atoms to exist. Electrons could not orbit around nuclei. Because the universe was nothing but charged particles, an amorphous glow is all that appears. For an earlier look, we need to use entirely different vehicles, entirely different instruments, particle accelerators, supercomputers, and gravity wave detectors, not telescopes. With these machines, we can duplicate many of the physical conditions of the cosmos at its earliest moments. The study of the cosmos can be compared with the backward running of a fireworks video. As we measure and observe the cosmos closer and closer to the first moment of its existence, we are running the tape backward toward the moment of creation. As we draw closer still to the creation event, we observe the universe becoming hotter and hotter. Eventually, in this backward replay, the universe will be so hot that protons and neutrons can't stick together. All atomic nuclei fall apart. Let's push on. As we probe even earlier, we encounter a blinding flash, just 1 millisecond from the creation event. This flash is generated by the sudden annihilation of all antimatter in the universe. A delicate balance of 1,000,000,001 particles to every billion antiparticles guarantees the existence of matter in the later universe, and it also guarantees the possibility of life. Pushing back to just a few dozen microseconds from the creation event, protons, neutrons, antiprotons, antineutrons decompose into even more fundamental particles called quarks. At 1/10,000,000th of a second from the creation event, the universe is too hot and too dense even for quarks to exist. At 100 billionth of a trillionth of a second from creation, the universe is too compressed for light to be possible.
the universe is now completely dark and smaller than a single atom. All we see at this proximity to the creation event are the shrinking dimensions of length, width, height, and time. That is, until we reach a speck of time, just a 10 millionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second from creation. Before this moment, all 10 dimensions of the universe began to expand. After this instant, only 4 dimensions continue to expand. So what has happened to the other 6 spatial dimensions? They remain tightly curled up, smaller than a billionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of an inch, around our dimensions of length, width, height, and time. These other 6 dimensions still exist, but with no possibility of uncurling. Let's dare to roll back the film the rest of the way. The universe continues to shrink, the 10 dimensions growing smaller and smaller. At the creation threshold itself, often referred to as the Big Bang, all 10 dimensions become infinitely or near infinitely small and suddenly disappear. And it is from this infinitely small beginning that the entire universe sprang forth, and every aspect, from the formation of planets, galaxies, stars, to the relationship between the mass energy and the space energy density, and even the laws of physics themselves, must have been carefully fine-tuned from the creation event in order to make life possible for this brief moment in cosmic history on our tiny blue dot.
Hugh, for most of us as lay people, that's mind-blowing. But for the scientists, why does this start to the universe, which takes us back to Genesis 1:1? Why does it scientifically actually point to a creator, the God of the Bible?
We've been looking at the observations so far, but complementing that are theoretical work, where they can actually take the equations of general relativity and the fact that the universe contains mass and develop a theorem that actually proves that the universe has a beginning that includes a beginning of space and time itself, which implies that there must be a causal agent beyond space and time that created the entire universe. And it's that declaration that distinguishes what the Bible teaches about creation from what the other religions of the world teach. And so these astronomers recognize this is actually pointing to the God of the Bible. And over a period of 10 years, 2 astronomers, Arvind Borde and Alexander Vilenkin, spent 10 years trying to find a loophole. And the end was they produced another theorem, this one right here, which says that any universe that expands over its history must have this space-time beginning, and implies there must be a creator beyond space and time that created everything. And only a universe that expands is able to have life. So you're living proof that there must be a God beyond space and time that created the entire universe.
And does this God want us to know him?
Well, the very fact that he designed the universe in such a way that we could discover him through observing the universe tells us he wants to be known, he wants to have a relationship with us.
Folks, our goal in this series is to take you through Genesis chapter 1 and to talk about not only what God said, but also we're going to show you what God did to the extent that we know today. And it's absolutely fascinating. And next week we're going to talk about how God fine-tuned the universe and how God has carefully created our world. I hope that you'll join us then.
If you would like to have all of the information in our series, Science Discovers the Universe Had a Beginning, it is available on DVD for a gift of $49. What scientific evidence has led astronomers to conclude the universe had a beginning, just as the Bible says? What evidence shows God meticulously created and designed the universe so human life can safely live on Earth? And how has God positioned Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune to protect the Earth? How did God exquisitely design the sun, the moon, and the stars for man's benefit? All 4 important television programs in this series are available on DVD for a gift of $49. We are also making available a second series entitled Step by Step Through Creation, in which Dr. Hugh Ross and I will take you verse by verse through Genesis 1 and 2 and show you how the biblical account of creation can be reconciled with scientific evidence today. The 4 programs in Step by Step Through Creation are available on DVD for a gift of $49. Third, we have written 2 new study guides with extensive notes that parallel our 2 television series. Each study guide contains 4 sessions for your personal study or Bible study group and is available for a gift of $8 each, or for 5 or more copies for $5 each. And fourth, we are making available the 70-minute documentary movie Journey Toward Creation, which will transport you by state-of-the-art computer animation out into space and back in time, past stars, galaxies, and quasars, all the way back to the moment the universe came into existence, and show you how God meticulously created and designed the universe. This updated second edition movie is available on DVD for $30. And finally, if you wish to order all 5 of these items together, that is, both television series, plus the 2 study guides, plus the documentary movie Journey Toward Creation, they are available together in a special package for only $120. And to order now, you may call us at 1-800-805-3030. That's 1-800-805-3030. You may also call that same number on any workday, or you may order these programs now at our website at jashow.org. And then, those of you who live in Canada may call us at 1-866-746-5803. And our Canadian website is jashow.ca.
This program is sponsored by the John Ankerberg Show Ministries and is made possible by the grace of God and your faithful prayers and gifts.